everyone, welcome to my video series on statistical significance testing. So in this video, we are going to talk about the Levene's test. Now, if you want to learn about this particular tutorial, you should first go through my tutorial on ANOVA test. It is extremely important because Levene's test itself uses ANOVA test inside it. So if you want to understand this test completely, then it is imperative that you first go through the ANOVA test tutorial that I made. I will leave a link in the description right now and just check it out. And after you understand ANOVA test, then bounce right back at the Levene's test. In that way, you are going to get the full picture. So without further ado, let's dive in. So let's start with the similar example that we gave in the ANOVA test tutorial. So we have these three nations, three countries, Bangladesh, Pakistan, and India, and these are the heights of their men. So 10 men have been collected from each country. Now you can see that the variance in this particular group and this group are actually quite large. They are quite spread out. But here the variance is actually quite low. These Pakistani men, they are sort of similar in terms of height. Now, as I said before, if you are looking at ANOVA test, what ANOVA test does is it compares the difference in this height, right? So it sort of tells you whether these heights are different or not, or whether at least one of these groups are different in terms of height, right? So here probably Pakistani group will be different in terms of height, right? But no, there will be an issue. The issue is in order for the ANOVA test to work, the variance for the different groups needs to be similar, right? Now, obviously, the variance for these three groups are not similar. So the vanilla version of the ANOVA test will not actually work here. But the issue is, how do we know that these variances are not similar? Now, you can say that, okay, by eye inspection, by eyeballing, we can know. Here we can sort of know, but there will be many situations where we cannot know whether the variances are different or not. So the question here is, how do we test whether variance for all groups are similar? And the answer is Levene's test. So the null hypothesis of Levene's test is the variance of all the three groups are similar. And the alternate hypothesis is that at least one group has a different variance. So not all three have to be different. For example, here Bangladesh and India are similar, but at least one group, right? So even if only one group has a different variance, then still this test will return a very small p-value. That means you can reject the null hypothesis, right? So that is the important thing to understand. Now let's understand the steps of the Levene's test. So step number one is you have to take the group mean. So each group, there is a mean, you take it. And then you have to take the distance from group mean. So each group mean, you take distance from the corresponding sample. So here in this case, heights, right? So you can take those distances, and those distances are nothing but these black colors. You can see that some of the distances are positive, for example, the upper ones, and some of them are negative, for example, the lower ones. What we are going to do in step 3 is get absolute value of each difference. So if we take absolute value of all these differences, they will become positive. And since there is a lot of spread here and here, so these points will be in the upward direction of y-axis, and these points in the Pakistan will be in the lower part of the y-axis, because here the distances are actually very small. Now for the interesting part. So here you have the differences, right? Here you have Bangladesh difference, Pakistan difference, and Indian men height differences from mean. Step 4 is you have to perform the one-way ANOVA test on these group differences. So just assume that these are not differences, assume that these are actual values. So if you assume that these are actual values, you can easily actually apply the one-way ANOVA test here to see if one of these groups are significantly different or not. That is why I said before at the start of the video that you need to understand ANOVA test if you want to actually have an understanding about this video, because this Levene's test, there is a step where the ANOVA test is used in between. Finally, in step 5, in the one-way ANOVA test, if you have a large F value, that means the p-value will be small. That means at least one group difference will be different. That means at least one of these groups will be different. For example, here this will be different. And that means at least one group has different variance. That means at least this group right here will have a different variance. So by looking at the result of the ANOVA test, by looking at the significance level of the ANOVA test, we can actually conclude whether these variances are similar or different. And that is all about Levene's test. So if you like the video, feel free to subscribe and share. There is a link in our description for donation. You can help our channel by donating to the link. Thank you very much.